I'm going to review Pressure Play by Grandmaster named McDonald for Everyman Chess, and this was published in 2023. It's a book with about 50 games, 51 games, in which it's shown every possible angle of how you pressure your opponents. In fact, is divided in the following chapters. You have the content that you can read, so 9 chapters. There is an index of complete games. Many of the games are played by Carlsen, that is a supreme master of pressuring the opponents. And here the main themes are paralyze the enemy pieces, target the weakest square on the board, increase and exploit space advantage, and master the pressure play. So through these 51 games, the goal is to teach the chess player to understand the pressure play. I will show one game by Carlsen, which is a little long, but I believe it's really nice aesthetically. So this is game 25, Carlsen versus Fedosev in Krasnaya Polyana in 2021. Carlsen opened with e4, c6, d4, d5, e5, bishop f5, and c4. An unusual move for which Fedosev was evidently unprepared. Mainline theory is for knight f3. As so often, Carlsen is seeking to direct the game into uncharted waters. Which makes sense. e6, knight c3, bishop b4, c takes d5, queen takes d5. Notice that we cannot take because knight g e2, queen d8, a3, bishop f5, knight g3, knight e7, bishop c4, bishop g6, h4, h6, h5, bishop h7, and now queen g4. Here there is a diagram with a question. We are at move 13. He asks you, after move bishop f5, determine if white can safely grab a pawn with queen take g7. So here you need to see the next note. It says you can pause the video and try to find out if it's safe or not to take the pawn. Okay? So the answer is instead black needed to respond sharply with bishop f5. So what happened here was that black played king f8. That was a mistake. Instead of should have played this, because if he plays queen takes g7, the answer is rook g8. And if white continues with queen takes h6, queen takes d4, threatens both the bishop on c4 and bishop takes c3. Okay, so it seems white couldn't take, but there is more here. Okay, it gives also another line in which there would be a kind of queen sacrifice. Okay, so I think we are here like this, and here it says also inadequate is the heroic queen sacrifice. Knight takes f5, rook takes g7, knight takes g7, because after king d7, when white plays bishop takes h6, is met by queen h8. So white would have to settle for a different move, but it's not really working. And now I will show you once we go back to the initial position. So this shows that also the queen sacrifice is not really working. Let's go back for a second to that position. And it was a bishop here, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so it's a this one. So white could play bishop takes this, knight takes, sorry, knight takes this, knight takes this, bishop e3, knight d7, and castle. So white would have to settle for this line when he has the bishop here and an edge in space. But black is solid and can try to utilize the hole in white center on d5. Okay, that's interesting. I don't think he has the because at the second point he can take this book. Okay, so let's return back. So in this position, black continues with the king f8. And here it says, now the theme of our chapter will be utmost in Carlsen mind, pressure against the f7 pawn, behind which the black king cowers. But as we shall see, there will be no gung-ho assault against the weak pawn. Instead, the world champion will show awesome patience with prophylactic measures to restrain the enemy pieces before the direct attack begins. It is no easy task to find the correct path after being surprised in the opening. The effort involved in making assessment and calculating from the word go often leads to a bad reaction, even if objectively everything is okay. Or it might simply be the case that a player who scintillates in familiar, well-studied opening lines is prone to strategic mistakes when obliged to solve the problems of the opening by himself. Thus, it is Fedosov, who belong among the elite players in the world, make a serious error as early as move 13. Normally, you'd still be reciting theory at this point in the game. Already overtaxed by the difficulties of the opening, it gives the wrong answer to Carlsen's question. What are you going to do about the attack on g7? As we shall not only will the black king be a target on f8, but the rook on h8 will never find a way to enter the battle. The relentless play of the world champion make it appear that black is losing from this point. And this is kind of interesting because Fedosov, being one of the top players in the world, has the same problems of the club player if he needs to save the pawn on g7. Okay, let's move forward. So here there is another question after black plays, so white plays castle and knight d7. The question is the following. Before reading further, you might like to assess the outcome of the opening. Remember to examine the pawn structure and piece deployment of both players. What will be their aims over the coming moves? So the answer is the following. First of all, we notice the awkward position of Fedosov's pieces on the king side. The rook on h8 is a strategic liability, as it is shut out of the game. Furthermore, the king is potentially in the firing line on f8 due to the fragility of the center pawn on e6 and f7. e6, f7. Neither of these knights nor his light square bishop are directly guarding these vital points. In contrast, white's light square bishop and queen are already at hand support f4, f5 to tear away the defensive wall around the black king. We should also mention that there is a hole on the d6 square. And what else? Let's see. Mention that there should be all on the 6 here. Yeah. From which a white knight could join in the attack on f7 as well, as threaten the b7 pawn. It is not all doom and gloom for black. The bishop on h7 and knight on e7, as well the e6 pawn itself, are poised to fight against the f4, f5 advance. The move knight f5 will not only put up a barrier against the pawn advance, but also obstruct the white queen view of e6. Carlsen's general plan is clear: probe the e6 and f7 pawns and try to achieve a hold firm, then the close nature of the position. Sorry, I made a mistake. Trying to achieve a breakthrough, okay, with f4 and 5. In contrast, Fedosed opts to maintain a solid barrier on f5. If he holds firm, then the close nature of the position will prevent white from taking advantage of his prospectless rook on h8. Okay, the problem is this rook is out of the game, which means black is -5, right? Getting the knight from d7 via b6 to d5 is top of a black wish list. As is well known, the square in front of a backfoot pawn, as white has on d4, is usually a strong and safe post for the enemy knight. In this specific instant, it would also block the action of the white light square bishop down the diagonal. Okay, so we can see that Grandmaster MacDonald is giving us a lot of information about this position. That's what makes his books particularly important, because this type of verbal analysis will be useful in the future when you will try to understand the position, right? Okay, so now it's white's turn, Carlsen's turn. What does he do? Knight c e4, because, like we said, he wants to go there, right? Question. Carlsen realizes that he must employ prophylaxis if he is to prevent the transformation of the knight from a bystander on d7 into a major actor on the strategic battle on d5. The knight most obviously aims at d6, but can you point out a temporary piece sacrifice to refute 15 knight b6? The move black would otherwise play? Yeah, I think it's interesting. This situation is amazing. Okay, so let's see. In case black plays 15, knight b6 is a mistake. Why? Can you see why? Wow. Okay, here is the answer. Bishop takes e6, f takes e6, and here there is knight c5, which threatens a deadly fork on e6. After 17, bishop g8, protecting, white can regain the piece with b4 with a crushing advantage, or even better, emerge 2 pawns up with knight takes b7, queen d7, and knight takes a5. Okay, so here you can see the 2 pawns advantage by white. Okay, okay, let's now return back to the position. I will pause the video for a second. So I think I put the position back correctly. Honestly, while I'm reviewing the book, I can tell you also positive feature. Grandmaster MacDonald put really a lot of diagrams. You can really follow the game without a chessboard. because after this move, 15 bishop c7, so now we know why knight b6 is wrong. After this move, there is another move by white, bishop a2, and then there is another diagram. So it's really easy to follow by using the book, and eventually you can try to follow the lines without the chessboard from the diagram and try to understand, because that is a good thing. The fact that he gave a line that was like 4 moves long, it's good because that's what you need to have in a real tournament game to be able to visualize 4 moves. Okay, now we are on bishop a2, and there is another question. Carlsen retreats his bishop from possible attack. What would be the refutation of 16 knight b6 in this case? So if you play this, what is the refutation? Okay. Well, if black plays 16 knight b6, this is the answer. Black is tantalizingly close to averting the danger by plugging d5 with his knight. But upon knight c5, the double weakness on d7 and e6 dooms on him. If rook b8, which is wrong, white plays bishop takes e6 and is decisive, since if you play f takes e6, that costs him the queen, right? Okay. And now let's go back and let's see what happens. Okay. So if instead of rook b8 he plays instead queen c8, this makes sense, right? Yet there is still this. Bishop takes e6, f takes e6, knight takes e6, king f7, and what happens after king f7? Here there is also another line, okay? Let me see. Queen g7, check, wow. King takes e6, queen f6, king d5, and now we know that things are really going bad, because if the king is going in the center, queen f7, queen e6, queen f3, queen c4, and a4, stopping him from escaping. Okay. And here there is no defense to threats, which include queen c3, followed by mate on c5. Yeah. Or 25 b3, b4, rook d1 with a quick mate. Yeah. Okay, well, it's a beautiful position, in fact, because just imagine, if you play this is the checkmate, right? If you play this, I think this is the checkmate. So, clearly, I don't think you would calculate all of this in the game, because it's like 6-7 moves at least, and that would take half an hour to calculate all of them. But of course, the computer will take a few seconds, or maybe not even a second, to see all of them. In any case, it's nice that the author gives us these questions and then show us the analysis, because this analysis should have been done by us, the reader, in order to improve our chess. Now I will pause the video in order to put the chessboard back as it was. Okay, I started another video because the previous one was already 20 minutes. so it was kind of a loss, I think. We were stopped at this move by Carlsen that was here and played bishop a2. The question was what would happen if knight b6. Black we saw it in the game. Black played knight f5. Okay? Knight takes f5, bishop takes f5. Black has dislocated his center for no good reason. And here it says after, instead of, if you would have played this, queen f3 was the move played by white, since e4 is untouchable, because if you play it, this is check. Okay? So that's the problem that we have here. So, queen f3. Question. And what is the deterrence of 18 knight b6 at this point? So, can black play this or not? The answer is, after knight b6, knight g3, the bishop can't retreat from f5, otherwise e6 will fall. If instead black would have played 18 knight takes e4, let's see what happens. Okay? Knight takes e4, sorry, not knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, and knight b6, the knight will reach its dream square on d5, but white can power along the f5 with 20 f4. Okay, so this is all the analysis about this situation. I like it because clearly McDonald is doing his job as a teacher, a good job, I would say, because here there is a diagram every page, there is a question every page, and now I understand, because these are 350 pages, but only 50 games. So clearly he analyzed the games well, and he asked his students to think. Okay, think. What means this? What means that? So black played queen e7, knight g3. Here we see why the exchange move 17 has favored the coordination of white's pieces. He can post his other knight on g3 to replace the one swap off, whereas black can't bring his second knight into the fight for the breakthrough square on f5. The upshot is that the advance f4, f5 is unstoppable. Bishop h7, queen g4, a commanding square for the queen as well as clearing the way for the f-pawn. She got d4, attacks g7, and prevents black queen becoming a nuisance with queen h4. Yet black is not doing that. c5. And here there is another question. Quite rightly, black looks for counterplay in the center. He strikes at the d4 pawn, which guards white's vital cramping pawn on e5. Can you find a way for white to maintain the pressure? Which of his minor pieces hasn't yet contributed to his attack? How can he take advantage of squares loosened by 20 c5? Well, the answer is in the next move by white, which is bishop d2 with the exclamation point. Simple, quiet, and effective. White gets to hold onto his bulwark on e5. Now it tells you what happens if black plays this, right? because this is the point at this point. Oops! Wow, bishop b4. Suddenly the bishop becomes an important player. Knight c5. Okay, c1, b6, queen takes d4, or he could play more violently as in the game, with 24, f4 and f5, with the position opening up, the awkward situation of a black king and the possibility of a rook on e8 becomes more pronounced. And now let's return back to the previous position. I will pause the video for a second. Okay, and now we can continue. So the move to keep the pawn d4, which was difficult to find in a sense, was bishop d2. Because one thinks to defend it directly, in this case the defense is on this diagonal, which is very interesting, right? Okay, after bishop d2, black plays rook d8, and white begins the attack. f4. After sublime position of maneuvers, Carlsen is ready to attack. Knight b6. Here the author gives a line which proves that if you would have played c takes d4, black would get crushed. Okay? Okay, very interesting. Yeah. Bishop c3. Again, I can notice that there is a diagram in every page, so it's really very easy to follow this game also without the chessboard. I believe this is a really great film. Yeah. I like it. I really like this book for this reason. So bishop c3 holding onto the d4 point. As the c takes d4, bishop b4 is a fatal pin. Note how white has gained maximum value from the black king being on f8. I don't think he could have ever known that because he stepped more than 10 moves before, right? The attacking possibilities with the rooks down the f-file are fairly self-evident. Yeah, that's true. But it's harder to spot the opportunity of exploiting potential pressure down the a3, f8 diagonal. a3, f8 diagonal. 95, f5. Understandably, white is loath to part with his strong bishop, but more exact was 24. Bishop takes d5. Rook takes d5 and f5. When black would soon be overwhelmed. The game move allows black knight to get involved in the battle for f5. Okay, so play knight e5, f5. Knight e3, tap, tap, tap. Queen f3. Here McDonald says that there was a better move, which was queen h3, and it is the line, okay? So, queen f3, knight takes f5. Obviously, if he takes here, he retakes here, and black is going to be really destroyed on the f5, okay? So that wasn't possible. Knight takes f5, bishop takes f5, and now there is a great move by white, which is e5. A powerful expansion in the center. Bishop b6. Can you suggest a way to remove the potential energy from a black piece? What move would we like to prevent? Obviously we want to prevent this, right? Because it's a discovery check. And it's messy because there is also this, right? So it's not only the discovery check. If it goes here, it's game over. So how do you prevent that? That is the question. The answer is clear. Bishop c4. Plug in the c4 square to incapacitate the bishop on b6. And here it gives another line in case one would have played d6, which is not good at all, it seems, okay? And there is a quite big analysis on this, so it would be worth to follow it, but again, we are another 10 minutes. It means this game is already half an hour long, at least as a video. King g8. Obviously, e takes d5 wasn't good because he would take here and then it would have been ms for black. So that is the thing. And d6. Queen h4. Here there is another nice diagram. And nice. So let's notice one thing. This queen h4 is attacking this. So next move is different. Bolstering his grip on c4 as a prelude to his next move. The world champion has accumulated numerous positional advantages. The rook on h8 is shut out of the game. The bishop on b6 is paralyzed. And he has a protected pass pawn. Protected pass pawn. Rook d7. It seems that this move, after 30 king h7, black is all set to develop his rook with rook h f8. If this game-changing move is allowed, while strategy of preventing the coordination of enemy pieces has failed. Therefore, direct, forcible measures are required. First of all, we should look at the whole board, increase our grip on the queen side with a4. This preludes to the action on the king side and threatens to win a piece with a5. Okay? Yeah. And if rook d7, a5, bishop d8, and bishop b5 traps the rook. An illustration of the congestion in the black camp. So, black must immediately play a5. Okay? It's nice because, as you can see, this is a big and long analysis that is needed because this game between big top players clearly have that, and probably Carlsen and the other top players saw all this analysis. Okay. So after a5, he says, however, this is not a pretty move. After white breaks through on the king side, he will be helped by losing on the black king side. His lateral bishop control of the b5 pair can no longer be contested by pawn move like a7 and 6, right? Yeah. And the need to defend the pawn on a5 further encumbers the already inert bishop on b6, which now is just a pawn. This is not a bishop, it's a pawn. So let's see, after king h7, a4, a5, he says that now white would play g4. That's incredible. g4. Wow. And if now bishop takes g4, bishop d3, check, bishop f5, bishop takes f5, he takes f5, queen takes f5, king g8, queen takes f7, king h7, king g6, king g8 again, and e6, threatening mate on g7. Okay, there is a mate there. And this is the end for black. So black has to exchange the queens. Instead of taking the bishop g4, he has to play queen takes g4. And here there is another line. But it seems that at the end of exchanges, white will break to the rook here, which is a big advantage to have the 7th rank. And notice that he says what I said, that the poor bishop is degraded to a pawn, practically, okay? So that's quite interesting. And here, obviously, he starts to make a kind of logical reasoning, no? That f7 was really important, so you cannot give it up. Again, please read the book because this analysis is nearly 1 page long, and I don't think it's adapted for a video, but it's certainly going to teach you something, right? Now I will pause and return back to the position for which we started. Okay, I believe I was able to bring the position back to the right thing. So now white plays b3, and instead of king h7, that seemed good, black played rook d7. Now imagine if black had to calculate all the lines that we saw. Clearly, we understand that classic chess is important because you cannot really do this kind of work on blitz, right? You need to do this kind of work on with long-term controls. Okay, so after rook d7, there is queen e2. It is time to think about the breakthrough to exploit the superior dynamism. Black can't just wait, as after e6, rook takes a5, e takes a5, e6, white's mobile center and bishop pair become overwhelming. Obviously, there is going to be a position of sacrifice because once you move this, white will break through and it will become a mess because these two are really going to kill the king, right? Queen g4. Here there is another analysis if black would have played bishop g4, and look how amazing this situation is. I mean, he doesn't ask anything but what would you play as white, because it's amazing. Boom! Queen takes, rook takes f5. Removing the bishop, which tells this f7 pawn is well worth exchange. So this is a positional exchange sacrifice. Now, I think it's important to see what happens if, obviously in the game he played this, queen takes f5. But what happens if he plays queen takes e2? Bishop takes e2, e takes f5, and black is no less than the exchange and the pawn up in the ending. However, the weakness of f7 square and his perennial difficulty in activating the rook on h8 means that he's struggling to hold back the dynamic white center. Thus, bishop b5, an important finesse to obstruct black's plan of killing his rook on h8, rook d8, bishop c4, and if now black plays king h7, because obviously he wants to bring this into the game, boom. Bishop takes f7, gains connected pass pawn, connected pass pawn, okay? Okay, while rook pawn, yeah, that's quite interesting. There is even more analysis here. I will bring back because I would like to see the end of this game, which is, and there are more analysis, but let's go to see the end because we have made another 20 minutes of video, okay? Okay, I think I brought it back to the position where it was. Now, I would like to share a confession. I love Bullet and Blitz. Really love them because it's fun. It's exciting, right? But this game clearly show us what chess is about, at least for a human. Because for a computer, maybe everything is simple, right? But for us human, all this level of understanding of the game can be done only if we think about it. And imagine this video is going to be 40 minutes long, and you didn't actually try to find the moves, because if you have to find the moves, some of the moves that the author of this book asked you to find, 10 minutes for each move would be a minimum. So this, just to watch this game and understand it, is maybe 2 hours. One would take 2 hours. And luckily we have this offer that it points every time. Why not this? Why not that? What? I don't know. To me, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, but this book is a great book, and this is a good work. Okay, so rook takes f5, queen takes f5, rook f1, rook queen g5, bishop d2, and queen d8. White can also drive the queen back after queen h4. So also if he went there, he would have played rook f4 and drop it back. Queen d4, a6. Probably to avoid that the rook is trapped, okay? Because it cannot go anywhere. Question. Fedosev is dreaming of freeing this game with bishop a7 and b5. How do we disabuse him? No half measures, be as violent as you like. So, the author of the book asks you, pause again this video and find what would you play in this situation. At this point, guys, I'm going a little faster because it's late here at night. I need to go to sleep, and this video took a really long time. Rook takes f7, double exclamation point, the culmination of White's strategy of pressure against f7. The sacrifice of the rook is a massive undertaking, but White's far advanced pass pawn and dominance of the light square will be decisive, with the rook on h8 doing nothing and the bishop hardly involved in the game. Black is outgunned where it matters. King takes f7. Now guys, I'm just going to show you the last move by the book so you can see all the rest of the analysis, because the author didn't stop it here, okay? He didn't stop it here, definitely. It was crazy here. There is still 2 pages of analysis. Queen takes e6, king f8, queen f5, king e8, king g6, king f8, queen f5, king e8, king b6, king f8. Now, the author doesn't explain you this, but I will tell you what it means. Probably this game was federated. This repetition of move means that every time Carlsen did this and this, his clock increase of 30 seconds. So with this repetition, he probably gained nearly 2 minutes on the clock. Okay. So e6, queen f6, he takes d7, queen takes g6, h takes g6, bishop d8, bishop e6, h5, king f2, h4, and now there is a great move which is bishop g4. Why? Because it blocks the rook from coming out. b5, king f3, b4, a takes b4, c takes b4. And after c takes b4, it seems that Fedosiev resigned. Here is how it might have finished. So the author gives us probably a computer-generated line which show how the game would finish, okay? Because this line is from move 50 to move 58. Enjoy. King e4, a5, and yet there is also some analysis. Okay, so I must try to find the end of the analysis. Yes. King f5, a4, bishop g5, bishop e6, king e6, a takes b3, d8 queen, check, bishop takes d8, bishop takes d8, b2, bishop e7, king g8. Obviously, if you play here, there is a pawn d7 mate. d7, b1 queen, and d8 queen, and checkmate. Okay, so this is how the game could have ended. I hope you enjoyed this long game from the book Pressure Play by Neil MacDonald. It's a great book, 51 games, more than 350 pages. As you can see, a lot of questions, a lot of reasoning to do. Clearly a book for those that want to improve in chess, okay? I hope you will enjoy.